Hello everyone. In this video, we will go over the topic of a writing assignment, which is a letter. And we're going to look at what the assignment is and the content of the letter, the mistakes that the student made, and why the specific score for this assignment was given. So first, let's look at what the assignment is. During a recent plane journey, you sat next to a businessman who owns a chain of restaurants. You talked to him and he suggested you should contact him about a possible job in one of his restaurants. Write a letter to this businessman. In your letter, and these are the three important points that you need to make in the letter. Remind him when and where you met, tell him what kind of job you are interested in, and say why you think you would be suitable for this job. So this is what the three most important things the letter has to have in it. And because you're writing a letter to a businessman and you're writing him about possibly getting hired in one of his restaurants, and you just met him once in a plane, this is definitely going to be a formal letter. So if we look at the letter, here's the beginning. Dear John, I am writing with regard to a job in one of your restaurants which you could offer me. So in this introduction, it's actually really good and it's definitely formal. But here you can find the first grammatical mistake with this word here, could. And could would not be the best option here. It would make a lot more sense to say which you said you might offer me, because if we go back to the beginning of this assignment, we see here it says you should contact him about a possible job. So it would make more sense to say which you said you might offer me. Okay, moving on to the next paragraph. I'm sure you remember that you traveled from London to Sydney 2 weeks ago. I'm the person who was sitting next to you and having an interesting discussion with you about politics. Now, this part of the paragraph goes back to this bullet point. Remind him when and where you met. So that is really good. But you have another grammatical error here with having. Having doesn't really make sense in this situation. It would be a lot better. In fact, it would be correct to put and had, which is simple past. I am the person who was sitting next to you and had an interesting discussion with you about politics. Okay, so moving on to the next paragraph. I would be keen on doing a supervisor job at a restaurant, hence I can manage waiters. So you wouldn't put supervisor job, doing a supervisor job. That's a noun, and you would want to put an adjective. So you would say doing a supervisory job at your restaurant, and you wouldn't say hence. You would say because I can. I would be keen on doing a supervisory job at your restaurant because I can manage waiters. That makes a lot more sense. The next sentence is, I would prefer to have flexible timings because I am studying and have lessons in the morning as well as in the evenings. Now here, timings, this is a vocabulary mistake. Timings is incorrect. You would say flexible hours. This is a lot better. I would prefer to have flexible hours because I'm studying and have lessons in the morning as well as in the evenings. So this is great because this paragraph goes to this point. Tell them what kind of job you're interested in, and it also says why you think that you're suitable for this job. Because you've managed waiters in the past. And this next paragraph continues with this part right here of saying why you think you're suitable for the job. This next paragraph says, I believe I can do a supervisor job well because I have experience in a similar job. Which is good, of course, it goes back to this point, but again, this problem with supervisor, you would say, I believe I can do a supervisor's job, okay? And the next sentence is, I had worked as a waiter for 2 years and then was promoted to a supervisor and successfully worked in the new position for more than 3 years. In this sentence, which is simple past, you already have worked with the ed ending, which is simple past, and you don't need to put in had. You would just say, I worked as a waiter for 2 years. And then here, you would say, I was promoted to supervisor, not a. You wouldn't put that in there. And successfully worked in the new position for more than 3 years. This paragraph is really covers this last point. Say why you think you would be suitable for the job. So it really is, the content of it is good, even though there are some grammatical errors. So moving on to the last paragraph, thank you for taking the time to read this letter. I hope to hear from you at your earliest convenience. This is really nicely put. It's definitely formal. And finally, yours sincerely, Arthur Y, which is, this is the name of the student, right? So, overall, it was a really, actually a good writing assignment that was done, because it really did cover these things, these main points, even though there was some mistakes that were made. And that's why the overall score is a 7. The task response was an 8. As I mentioned before, it really covered the most important things. The coherence and cohesion was also pretty good. It had room for improvement, so that's why I would give it a 7, even though it was organized well and it was definitely logical. The lexical resources and vocabulary, I'd give the student a 7. There was definitely a lot of good vocabulary that was used, but there was a vocabulary mistake, and that's why I have to give the student a 7. And then the grammatical range and accuracy would be a score of a 6. There was a lot of grammar that was used correctly, but there was also a few grammar mistakes, and that's why I had to give them a 6 in the end. But the overall score is a 7, and that's actually a pretty good score. So that's it for today, and thanks a lot, and tune in next time. Thanks, guys.